Grand Slam. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I am not going to play around with words. This show was so obvious, it sucked. I'm being truthful here. I'm not saying the matches were bad. This is not about the match quality as normal. This is not about the match quality. The match quality was not the issue here. Wasn't. For many of the matches, they were fine. It wasn't the fans themselves, because the Aussies were fine. The Australians were fine. They had a good amount of energy. They enjoyed the show. I'm happy for them. But as someone who is a wrestling fan, who understands that we know what this is, okay? We know it's scripted, all right? The goal of a promotion is to take something that is obvious and make it exciting, surprising, make it feel important. And we didn't get any of that. Taking nothing away from the matches and the wrestlers who bust their butt to make, bust their butt to make the show mean something, it didn't. Why? Guess what? It's mainly due to the fact of bad booking. I'm sorry. Bad booking is the problem here. It's not the wrestlers themselves. It's not the match quality themselves. The matches are all pretty damn good. But if you're going to make this mean something, you got to get me more than just matches. You need to give me something that will make whatever is obvious still feel important, still feel fun, still feel, in a sense, spontaneous. And we got none of it. This is a big goose egg. This is a big goose egg. That is what we got. Opening match. Moxley versus Kateska for the Continental Classic Championship, or the Continental Championship. Let me give it to you like this. I would have been more happy to see Kateska have a moment with Moxley at Revolution. Wouldn't it have been better to give this at least a month or two build and make Kateska mean something? This, I know people are going to say, dude, we've already had months. We never got resolution of Kateska and Okada. You wonder what's happening with Kateska dealing with Okada. You wonder if Kateska is going after the International Championship. No, he's not. He tried to get the Continental Championship for the Continental Classic. He didn't get it. No, he didn't win. Moxley beat him. So then it's like they shifted from, look like they're going to do something with Okada and Kateska, and they don't, and then they start shifting over to Moxley and Kateska. And you would think, okay, they're trying to build something with the Don Callis family, they're trying to build something with the Death Riders, which don't make any sense. The Death Riders make no sense, particularly with the match where someone's got to lose their hair. And I'm being honest here, where the match, legitimately losing someone's hair, I'll explain in a minute, but in the end, guys, we get this match, which felt like it should have been built up more and should have happened at Revolution. No, we're not getting at Revolution. We're getting it here. And did I feel like Moxley was going to job here? No. The only thing I felt is that they just did this because they only had the Continental Classic to work from. And that was the problem. Kateska was supposed to be in a feud with Okada, and that didn't happen. Then they shifted over to Moxley and Okada, which feels like it needs more time to build, because they need to do something with Okada, they need to do something with Kateska, and they need to do something with Moxley. They didn't do anything with any one of them. They just used the Continental Classic, which was not enough, particularly that Kateska didn't finish anything with Okada at all. Period. He didn't try to go after the International Championship. They never really had a feud. And then when you shifted over to making Moxley feel important, where Lily Moxley is acting like a good guy, bad guy type of thing. He's not acting like a betweener. I'm sorry. He's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not a betweener. He isn't. He's a bad guy that's just staying a bad guy, and people want to cheer him because he's just a bad guy. So when this match happened, there wasn't enough build. The Okada and Kateska storyline never went anywhere when it should have. And then in this situation where it should be done at Revolution, they wouldn't wait. So they got this match over with, and Kateska lost. He lost. But then it's like they give a little tease that the fight between them is not over due to the fact, and they gave themselves an out because they knew they had nothing with this storyline. The storyline of using a Continental Classic was not good enough. So what did we get? We get a 20-minute match that did not end the way it's supposed to. There should have been a winner, but there wasn't. But at the same time, it was. Because what happened? It was a draw. We get a draw between Kateska and Jon Moxley. Neither one could beat the other one. But Jon Moxley retains. The only way out they had. And to be honest, it shows how bad the booking was. Because if Kateska had dealt with Okada and the International Championship and lost it in their feud, and then they moved them away from each other, that would have made it alright for him to go to the Continental Championship, which did not happen. Now, with this, all they have is a rematch that needs to happen because they couldn't beat each other. I'm like, this sucked. It sucked. Not because they did a draw, but because there's no story behind the damn draw. There's no story. And if you say there is a story, explain why below. Please, explain why there's a story when Okada should have been dealing with Kateska first, which he didn't do. And then they moved over to Moxley with the Continental Classic loss, but then it felt like there wasn't enough time, particularly that they're acting like there's a feud between the Don Callis family and the Death Riders, which there isn't, and Moxley, who's acting like a betweener as best as he can, but he's not. And the worst thing is, the rest of the Death Riders are not acting like betweeners, which everyone thinks he's acting like a betweener. They're not. Try and explain it. Next match. The Women's Tag Championship. The Mega Bads versus the Babes of Wrath. Let's make this very clear. I want to say this right now about one person. Penelope Forbes. This girl has been there from almost the beginning of Dynamite's conception. I say at least a couple of months. Almost near a year after Dynamite started, she appeared. Between the couple of months to a year, she joined AEW. She wasn't the first person. Britt Baker was the first person hired, but she was later hired. I don't know what she was, maybe 4th or 5th of the women that were hired to AEW. And she went with her, I think her fiance, Kip Sabian, at the time. She's been there all this time. And this girl has never gotten anywhere. And it's not because she doesn't have a good ability. She's a heater. She can talk. She's hot. And she can wrestle pretty good. But what have they done with her? Before she joined Megan Bayne and afterward. Job. And job. And job. And job again. And they tried to make her feel serious. And then they jobbed her ass out again. And again. And when it comes to Megan Bayne, they don't want to make Megan Bayne job. So guess what? They make her job instead of Megan Bayne. Constantly. Very rarely she doesn't job out. When she does win, it's because of Megan. Or because someone else is interfering. It is rare that you ever see her actually win a match without having to have someone disrupt the match, or Megan Bayne has to win it for her. So we get this match against the Babe of Wrath. And this was about only one person other than Penelope Forbes. Harley Cameron. Now, I don't hate Harley. I don't. She's just as beautiful as Penelope. Yeah, she got those big fun bags. More than Penelope does. But the thing here is this. It is obvious they did this for Harley Cameron. They did. It is not about her ring ability. Harley is middle of the road here. And let's make it clear. Willow is here. Penelope is here. Megan is here. But Harley's here, and there's nothing wrong with that. She could still be over and relevant even as an average wrestler. So that takes nothing from her. But they're in their own home country. Come on. She doesn't even live very far from where the arena is. Let's make this very clear. This was a win for her. And who did they have job for her? It wasn't Megan. It was Penelope. Again. Penelope does the damn job, and I'm sorry. The match itself was a little sloppy at first. It felt sloppy at first. Either it wasn't Megan who was sloppy. It was either Penelope herself, or it was, surprisingly, Harley had a couple of times she seemed to miss her spots. Particularly when she almost lost the match. When she got nailed in the face, she's going like this, going, did I forget my spot? And headed the opposite direction. Then she realized she was going the wrong direction, then turned around. This is what we got. The match itself was not 100% trash. I say it was semi-okay. But it was about her getting the damn win. And let's make this clear. If you were thinking about WWE in a day, where Vince would never, and I say never, unless you were his favorite, that he would let you have the win in your own hometown or home country. And yeah, he would let you have it only if he really liked you. And as far as he's concerned, if it goes with the story that he cared about, even if the story wasn't good, that's the only time you would ever see Vince do it. Because he would never do it. Here, Tony does it almost all the time. And worse yet, in this situation where you want to make the tag division feel important, relevant, you do it here. No, I'm sorry. I don't agree with it. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel but very obviously and very predictable. I'm sorry. I would have liked to see a number one contenders match between the Sisters of Sin and Mega Bads. At least then, it wouldn't feel so favoritism. It wouldn't feel like that. It wouldn't feel like this was only supposed to make Harley feel good. Here, Harley, here. Take this with your big tits, here. And that's not meant to insult her. That's the way it looked. That's the way it looked, guys. I'm sorry. This is not about if Harley can wrestle or not. I've said it already. She's an average wrestler that can get over big. And she has. She's not the best wrestler on the roster. She never was. But like Jey Uso, he was not the best wrestler. Even Triple H said he is not a good wrestler. But he is over with the fans. And that's what people want. Relevancy in wrestling more than just have the damn title. Relevancy to feel that important. Moving on. Third match. The number one contenders match for Revolution. Andrade Cien Momos, or Andrade El Idolo, versus Hangman Page. Now, it was a surprise to see Andrade in this position. It was. I'm not going to lie about that. I was surprised they were willing to go that far with him. But it is obvious that there was no way he was going to win this match. But the question was, were they going to make it a competitive match that could still make you feel like, yeah, I know Page is going to win it, but how close will he get? And this was one of the few matches that was very competitive. And it was actually one of the best matches of the show, because you could not tell if Andrade was going to win or Hangman Page. You couldn't tell. And that was a good thing. That is one of the things that you want in a show. You want, even if it's predictable, and we knew it was going to be, you want to make it look as spontaneous as possible or non-predictable as possible. And in this match, they did a very good job to hide it. And in the end, Hangman Page won due to the fact Andrade tried to nutshot him, but it didn't work. And he gave him a nutshot of his own because he already did that before already. So he managed to win the match, which I was fine with. I'm not telling you that was bad, but it was all right. It was fine. Now, before we get to the other stuff, I want to say this. I want to tell you what I felt about Chris Statlander, where they showed her after her match with Tekla, and you saw Tekla as well. The girl was still bleeding drips. Literally, her cut was that deep, she was still bleeding. I heard what JD said, along with Jesse, about Chris, and how they don't understand what are they doing with her. And when she finally seems to be connecting, they make her drop it. And what they said about the interview she did, where she showed her frustration and actually showed a lot of emotion on that podcast, where she almost ready to break into tears. They were wondering if that's the reason why she dropped it. Now, mind you, Tekla is not a bad character. I like Tekla. And seeing that eventually she could get that title, I thought she would get it by Revolution. I thought they could build into Revolution with Tekla. And it could go up against Chris Statlander, yes, or Willow Nightingale, yeah, either one. And I felt that Revolution would be the best time to actually let her get it. But after realizing that she had an interview and she was highly emotional and felt frustrated about creative control, well, not creative, her creative, the control over her character and how she's not been able to fully connect with people because storylines were just dropped. It's hard not to believe what JD and Jesse are saying because we know Tony doesn't take things well. If you speak the way Tony doesn't like it, you tend to disappear from television. You do. There's no way you can deny it. If Tony doesn't like you, if there's an issue, you disappear. Look what happened to Ricky Starks. He disappeared for months for no reason. None. Until they finally released him. Same thing when it came to Powerhouse Hobbs. I mean, he wasn't too happy about stuff. And he decided not to resign. And now he's in WWE. We don't know when he's going to appear yet. Unless he already appeared. On maybe NXT. I don't know. I didn't see it. But maybe he will. But we know that Tony Khan tends to get very impulsive. So could she have lost that title because of what she said? Yes. I cannot confirm it. Nobody can. But is there a possibility of it? Yes. She was now finally seeming to connect with the fans as the Galaxy Killer. I'm not saying it was a great connection, but she was finally connecting. She tried as a heel, which still halfway didn't work. Then she tried switching back to being what she was as a reboot of what she was when she first joined the company. The only thing she didn't do was doing sign. That's not meant to be disrespectful to anyone who does sign language. I don't know sign language, but that's what she did. That's one of the things she did. But this time around, once you settled everything, after she won that title, she seemed to finally make sense. She started connecting. And now it's done. Now the question about now is, what are they going to do with her? This is a big question. What are they going to do with Chris? Yes, she's going to probably get a rematch against Tekla, but what will it mean? Will they build her correctly? Will they book her? I don't know. Next, Tornado Tag. Oh, here we go. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. Let me give you like this. If they really wanted to make this feel special, Wheeler Yuta shouldn't have been shaped. It should have been Marina Shafir or easily Orange Cassidy. It should have been one of them. It didn't have to be Toni Storm. It didn't even have to be Wheeler Yuta. You could have done it with Marina Shafir. But no. It was the most obvious person. The most obvious person. And that's an issue. So much of an issue. It was disgustingly boring. The match itself was not the issue here. It was fine. The match was alright. Seeing Toni Storm get pile drived on some, well, if you remember, when they didn't even go to the ring at first. They were in the arena. They were in the stands. And Toni got pile drived by Wheeler Yuta onto the utility boxes. And she was carried to the back for a while Orange had to literally fight an entire battle alone until she finally came back, kicked Wheeler Yuta in the nuts, fought with Marina Shafir, that eventually Wheeler Yuta gets his ass pinned. He's the one who ate it. By Toni Storm, who he pile-drived. And then here's the thing that shows you that this makes no sense with the Death Riders. None. Zero. What happened? Wheeler Yuta decided, I'm not going to stay. I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm not doing this. And it was Moxley that had to grab him and say, what are you doing? Go back in that damn ring. Go back in the ring. Instead of Moxley saying, come on, let's get out of here, as a heel would. No, he told him to go back. And that shows you how weak the Death Riders are. Because you don't get what's going on with the Death Riders and Moxley. What are the Death Riders? Are they just all bad guys? No. They're led by a guy who doesn't stay like a bad guy for very long. He keeps switching back and forth. And he should have already been removed from the Death Riders. He shouldn't have stopped Wheeler Yuta. They could have extended that. Understand, this is what they could have done that could have made it interesting for when they come back to America. C Division. Yeah, I know I said it. I said it. What are you going to want? I said it. Wheeler Yuta is the one who loses. But instead of them trying to shave him because he got stunned, because they would stun him, he would basically be knocked out. And they try to shave some of his hair, which they do. They shave some of it. But he gets away, he nails Orange Cassidy, and he escapes, but his hair is not completely shaven. And instead of leaving it like that, they do an entire storyline of Wheeler Yuta acting like a coward, only have part of his hair shaved, and the deal would be to shave his head completely. And they will make a storyline out of that. Now, I know not everyone's going to like it, but guess what? That's better than what we would get. That's better than this. This was so predictable, it sucked. So bad. It sucked. It didn't even feel special. Yes, you got Marina Shafir holding Wheeler Yuta's hand. You got Moxley watching in the background. You got Orange beginning to shave his head. You got Luther shaving his head. You got Marina Shirakawa shaving a little bit of his head. And Toni Storm as well. But did it feel important? Did they take all the hair off? No. You had to see Wheeler Yuta grab the clippers after the entire thing was over, because instead of trying to shave off all his head, all of it, they only shaved part of it. Look, you can say a lot about WWE, but they're thorough. When McMahon lost, he had to get his head shaven completely. And there were only little bits and pieces you missed. And other people did it, like in TNA, they got all their hair shaven off almost completely. This was trash because they didn't even bother to shave him completely. Yes, they had time constraints, but it doesn't matter. Shave the damn head or shorten the match. It should have been shortened to give more time for the shaving. I don't know about anybody else, but it just didn't feel good. Moving on. Next. The ladder match. I hated the ladder match. Not because of the quality of it, because it was a good match. And Kyle Fletcher had a moment at home, in his home country. Don't know if he was close to his hometown. Maybe he was. I think he was in his hometown. Let's make this very clear. I don't hate Kyle. I don't hate at all the ref. And I definitely don't hate Mark Briscoe. Not at all. But I hated this match because it was so stupid. Not because they couldn't have a ladder match in Australia. But one, this was not a best of 7 because they never announced it. They should have. If they announced this as a best of 7 from the very beginning and they decided to do it on Grand Slam Australia, that would have been more impactful. On top of it, as a best of 7, they should have put a stipulation that whoever lost could not go after the TNT title ever again. Whoever wins has it until they drop it, and then the other person go after it again. That would have been better. Having it announced as a best of 7 way ahead of time, and making stipulation that the winner keeps the title, and the loser can never challenge again while that person keeps that damn title. That would have been great. That actually would have been a story that many people could get behind. Ugh. Tommaso Ciampa had to job for this storyline, which is not a storyline. There was no reason for Tommaso Ciampa, who had just come in, to have 2 matches. One of them was for the title, and he won it. The other one, he won the title, and he had his first match. And then he goes up against Kyle, loses that damn title when he shouldn't have, and within 2 weeks. I said this, I didn't feel comfortable about this. I was worried. And there were people like JD and Solomon who said, oh, this is kind of good, this is great. I didn't agree with it. Guess what happened on this Dynamite? If you look at their video, they didn't understand a fucking thing about him losing to Kyle. And now they're going over to what we're talking about now, Grand Slam. Now they agree with me. This was bullshit. This was beyond stupid to make Tommaso Ciampa come in, his first match to win the title, his second match is to defend it, and then when he defends it again, he just drops it within 3 weeks. It was stupid. So this story that supposedly people are so proud of sucks. They could have made this a best of 7 well before Tommaso Ciampa even was debuted, and could have made it about that, saying that I lost to you. They could have had Kyle had the title quite a while ago, or better yet, Mark could have kept the damn title, and then Kyle could have won it at home. How much glory would that be? That Mark was allowed to hold that title. They talk about best of 7 because Kyle comes to him, says, we still got best of 7. 3-3. I want a match again. And you hear Mark says, I'm tired of this. Says, I want another match, and we're going to be a Grand Slam. I want it. I'll give you a ladder match. And he says, all right, but you know what? You want this ladder match in your home country? There's one more thing that's going to be added. I'll let you have that ladder match with me, but this is your last time. If you lose again, you don't get no more chances because this is it. You can't go after the title again if you lose. I hold the title. When I lose it, you can go after it then. And that's all they had to do as a stipulation. No. This is bullshit. This sucked. This was so obvious that Kyle was going to win. It sucked. It was not the quality of the match. It was just knowing what's going to happen. And wasn't done well enough to make it look like he couldn't lose. No. There was a good possibility he could lose. Because the match was very good. But still, guess what? There was no way he was going to lose. And being in his own hometown where we know Tony tends to book people to win. There you go. Moving on to the final match. MJF versus Brody King. Now, I saw JD's video about what happened with Brody King and MJF not being on the show. And Brody King walking around with an ice shirt. And they trying to say he couldn't be there because the network didn't like it. The network didn't like it and they didn't want it. But from reports, the network didn't know a damn thing and they didn't say anything. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make this very clear. I'm not taking a stance on for or against ice, okay? I'm not saying I'm for ice. I'm not saying I'm against ice. This is about pro wrestling. And hearing the fans scream, fuck ice, is not good. That's not a good thing. Now, mind you, there have been more than a few situations where there's a situation in real life that is incorporated into a storyline. That could be done. They could do a storyline on ice where either for or against, it doesn't make a difference. They could actually book a storyline with ice. It's as simple as that. But as it stands, and I'm being honest here, I'm not for Brody King. I'm not against Brody King. But when your people are not the goal on X, when your company is not the goal on X, hearing people chant fuck ice on your TV show, and that is why you get huge boosts in X and likes and views on it, that's not good. That's not good at all. This is not about your show. This is about the chants that was on the show. And that's not good. This is not about Brody and his beliefs. He can believe whatever the hell he wants. He's a free man. He has the perfect right to do that. But when a situation comes where it's not going to be incorporated into a storyline, I'm making this clear. If he wore that shirt and it was incorporated into a storyline, there's no problem with it. Whether I like it or not, it's part of a storyline. But like this, and the chants are more important than your company, I got to agree with JD. This is not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to think more thoroughly what goes on in your own show. And Tony letting Brody King go out there, which, no matter what you think, whether it enticed the fans to chant it or not, by him not doing anything to Brody, or better yet, not trying to dampen out the fuck ice chants, because they weren't dampened out, it didn't make your show better. I'm sorry. This is not about if I agree with Ice or disagree with Ice. I'm seeing this as a pro wrestling fan and as a reviewer of pro wrestling. Remember, you want people to care about your show. Yes, incorporate things in real life into it, like what happened with Desert Storm in the 1990s, where you actually had Nikolai Volkov, you had Sergeant Slaughter, and you had the Iron Sheik in the storyline because of the war that was going on. No one liked the war. And they made a storyline about the war, which was fine. You could choose either side you want. But there's nothing here. There's no sides made. There's no storylines made. Nothing. And instead of doing something, you allowed the chants to be loud, and you let Brody go out there with the shirt on. And it wasn't for storyline. I'm sorry. That's a waste that doesn't help the company. Now, the match itself was fine. I knew either three opportunities were going to happen. One, MJF was going to be distracted at one point because maybe Hangman Page came out because he did win. And he, essentially, would try to distract MJF so maybe Brody would win. That was one. Two, you would have someone come out and distract Brody. In this case, it was Bandito who came out. He didn't distract him, he tried to encourage him, which happened, but he lost. The third one, which would have been, no one came out, but it's still like the second option. MJF would win clean. Clean. Because that's what happened. MJF won clean. Now, mind you, did it look sloppy at certain points? Oh, excuse me. Yes. There was one point that it was a solid chair, not a folding chair, a solid chair, which, for some reason, MJF decided he wanted to take a bump with a solid chair, dragged it, and the commentators even were stupid enough to say, oh, MJF is dragging a chair over. Why did you do that? Excalibur was stupid. And then the spot was done. You don't say what's about to happen. Yes, if you see it on the camera, it's one thing. But literally say, oh, MJF is dragging. What is he going to do with that? Ugh. This is where, like I said, when you know something's going to happen, you know MJF was not going to job here. But you got to make it look believable. You got to make it feel spontaneous. You got to make it feel like, yes, I can buy that. No. Why? It makes my scalp itch. Why did commentary act that stupid? I can understand MJF just didn't want to take the bump on a chair that would fold up and snap. But why did commentary open their mouth like that, like a stupid bitch? Excalibur was the one who said it. That was a stupid bitch move. Why? But in the end, MJF retained. And then Hangman Page came out with the contract in front of MJF, signs it, and then drops it to the floor, and then acts like he's about to hit him with the pin, try to attack him with the pin, and then drops that on the mat as well. All over predictability. And it didn't feel right. Couldn't you have done this at Dynamite back in America? I want to say this. Why did MJF have to face Hangman Page there? He didn't. Wouldn't it have been better for a Titantron? Wouldn't it have been better to wait until you got back in the country and let MJF then really face him? You just had to run out and sign it, drop, and then run off. It's wrong. That doesn't give us any real story. It just feels like they just wanted to get it over with. And that's a major problem. Again, I'll say this again. When you look at a storyline, you probably know what the outcome is going to be. But you want to make it feel spontaneous. You want to make it feel relevant and special. Did you get that here? This felt like a show that just wanted to get it over with. That's what it felt like. Almost all the matches here felt like they just wanted to get it over with. Only a few didn't, like Hangman Page and Andrade. That didn't feel like they wanted to get over with. It was a good match. Of course, we knew Hangman Page was going to win, but it didn't feel like he was going to win very easily. It could have been very difficult. Fine. The match where... Let me give it to you like this. When you look at Mox and Kateska, it was a good match. It was. But there was no build to it. But they did, in some level of it, make it feel like you couldn't know who was going to win if you didn't realize, if you were basically new to wrestling and you just see Moxley, you see Kateska, and if you didn't know what was going on, didn't know that Okada didn't have his feud with Kateska when he should have, you wouldn't know. There you go. But that would have to be someone who's completely new to wrestling, that hasn't ever seen it and never knew what the stories were. But there was only one match that truly felt like you didn't know what was going to happen, even though you knew the ending, because it was well enough done. So obvious, and it sucked. This is the title of my video. I don't know how you're going to feel about it. I don't know what you're going to think about this. I'm just telling you what it is. Hope you enjoyed this. Give me a comment below, maybe a like or two. Peace.